A second lieutenant pulls up to a routine traffic stop and sees something that shatters his world in seconds. His wife, kissing the cop who pulled her over. What he did next would destroy 4 lives and expose a scandal that went deeper than anyone imagined. This isn't just about a kiss at a traffic stop. This is about betrayal, deception, and how one moment of rage can unravel months of lies. And the evidence? It's all on police dashcam footage that would eventually go viral. But here's what you don't know yet. That traffic stop wasn't random. The affair had been going on for months, and what investigators found on their phones would shock an entire military base. November 14th, 2024, Highway 287 outside Fort Carson, Colorado. 2:47 p.m. Officer Devin Hayes pulls over a silver Honda Accord for speeding. Routine stop. He's done hundreds of these. He approaches the driver's side window, asks for license and registration. The driver is Natalie Chen, 29 years old, elementary school teacher, wife of Second Lieutenant James Chen, stationed at Fort Carson. Devin recognizes her immediately. They know each other. They know each other well. The dashcam captures everything. Devin leans into the window. They're talking, laughing. This doesn't look like a normal traffic stop. She's not nervous. He's not being professional. And then it happens. Through the driver's side window, Natalie leans out. Devin leans in. And they kiss. Right there. On a public highway. On police dashcam. In broad daylight. The kiss lasts 7 seconds. 7 seconds that would destroy everything. But neither of them saw the white pickup truck that had pulled over 200 feet behind them. Neither of them noticed the man stepping out of that truck. Neither of them realized they'd just been caught. Second Lieutenant James Chen had been driving home from base when he spotted his wife's car being pulled over. He decided to stop, make sure she was okay. Standard husband instinct. What he saw instead ended his marriage instantly. What would you do in that moment? Would you confront them immediately? Would you document everything first? Would you walk away and process it privately? James Chen didn't walk away. The dashcam footage shows what happened next in brutal detail. James approaches the vehicle. He's in civilian clothes, but his military posture is unmistakable. Straight back, controlled movements, focused intent. Devin Hayes sees him coming and immediately steps back from Natalie's window. He knows something's wrong. His hand instinctively moves toward his service weapon. Step away from the vehicle. James' voice is cold, controlled. Military precision even in rage. Sir, I need you to return to your vehicle. Devin's trying to maintain authority, but his voice betrays him. He knows exactly who James is. That's my wife. 3 words, delivered like artillery fire. Natalie's face in that moment tells you everything. The blood drains from her face. Her mouth opens, but no sound comes out. She knows her life just imploded. Sir, I need you to calm down and return to... James doesn't let him finish. How long? The question hangs in the air. Devin doesn't answer. That silence is an admission. How long? James takes a step closer. This is where Devin makes his first critical mistake. Instead of de-escalating, instead of being honest, he tries to assert authority. Sir, if you don't return to your vehicle immediately, I will place you under arrest for interfering with a traffic stop. Wrong move. James Chen isn't some random civilian. He's a second lieutenant in the United States Army. He's trained in hand-to-hand combat. He's trained to assess threats and neutralize them. And right now, every instinct in his body is screaming that the man in front of him is the enemy. What happens next happens fast. James closes the distance between them in 2 strides. Devin reaches for his weapon. James' military training kicks in. He grabs Devin's wrist before the gun clears the holster, uses Devin's own momentum against him, and takes him to the ground. The dashcam captures it all. The takedown is textbook. Clean, efficient, controlled. This isn't wild rage. This is trained violence applied with precision. They're on the ground for maybe 8 seconds before James releases him and steps back. He doesn't continue the attack. He doesn't lose control. He just needed to make a point. Devin scrambles to his feet, finally gets his weapon drawn. On the ground, now! James doesn't move. He just stares at Devin with cold contempt. Call your supervisor. Tell them what happened. All of it. Natalie is out of the car now, screaming, crying, trying to explain. Nobody's listening to her. Within 4 minutes, 3 more police units arrive. Within 7 minutes, James Chen is in handcuffs. Within 20 minutes, the dashcam footage is being reviewed by the shift supervisor. And within 2 hours, that footage would trigger an investigation that would expose everything. December 2024. The internal affairs investigation is in full swing. James Chen was initially arrested for assault on a police officer and interference with official duties. But when military police got involved, when they reviewed the dashcam footage, when they saw that kiss, everything changed. The charges against James were dropped within 72 hours. The district attorney watched that footage and knew no jury would convict a soldier for reacting to seeing his wife kiss another man during a traffic stop. But the investigation into Natalie and Devin was just beginning. James provided investigators with something more damaging than the dashcam footage. He'd secretly cloned Natalie's phone 2 weeks earlier. He'd suspected something was wrong. His instincts were right. The text messages between Natalie and Devin painted a picture of an affair that had been going on since August 2024. 4 months of lies, secret meetings, and betrayal. Let me read you some of these messages. They start in late August. Devin. Can't stop thinking about this afternoon. You're incredible. Natalie. I know we have to be careful, but I've never felt like this before. My heart races every time I see your patrol car. This isn't casual flirting. This is a woman falling in love with someone who isn't her husband. By September, the messages get more explicit about their meetings. Natalie. James is doing night training exercises Thursday. Can you come over? Devin. What time? Natalie. 20 Hawar. Park 2 streets over like last time. They had a system. They had routines. While James was training to defend his country, his wife was sneaking another man into their home. October brings more concerning messages. Devin. Had to pull over a military vehicle today. Made me think of you. Natalie. Were you hoping it was James? That would have been a dramatic LOL. Devin. No joke. My heart stopped for a second. Thought I was about to have the worst day of my career? Natalie. Don't worry, babe. He trusts me completely. He'd never suspect anything. That message. That's the one that investigators said showed consciousness of guilt. She knew what she was doing was wrong. She knew she was deceiving her husband, and she thought she was smart enough to get away with it forever. How does someone justify this to themselves? How does a woman kiss her husband goodbye in the morning, teach children all day, then text her lover while making dinner for that same husband? The psychology of affairs often involves compartmentalization. Natalie convinced herself she was living 2 separate lives, wife Natalie and Devin's girlfriend Natalie. She thought she could keep those identities separate forever. But here's what affairs have in common. They always come with expiration dates. Someone gets suspicious, someone gets careless, someone makes one mistake. For Natalie and Devin, that mistake was getting comfortable. They got so confident in their deception that they kissed on a public highway, in uniform, on camera, in broad daylight. They thought they were invincible. They were wrong. While the police department was investigating Devin, Fort Carson was conducting its own inquiry into James and Natalie Chen. Here's something most people don't understand about military life. When you're married to a service member, certain rules apply to you too. The Uniform Code of Military Justice doesn't directly govern civilian spouses, but conduct that brings discredit to the military can have consequences. Captain Lisa Rodriguez was assigned as the investigating officer. Her job was to determine if Natalie's affair had impacted James' ability to perform his duties and whether it had brought discredit to Fort Carson. The findings were damaging. According to fellow officers, James's performance had noticeably declined starting in September 2024. He was distracted during briefings. He'd shown up late twice. He'd requested unusual amounts of time off. When questioned, James admitted he'd suspected the affair for weeks. He'd been losing sleep. He couldn't focus. He was trying to gather evidence while maintaining his military duties. His superior officer, Major Thomas Wright, provided a statement that was particularly revealing. In September, Lieutenant Chen seemed like a different person. He'd always been sharp, focused, reliable. Suddenly he was making mistakes. Small ones, but mistakes. When I asked if everything was okay, he said he was dealing with personal issues. I assumed financial stress or family problems. I never imagined his wife was having an affair with a local police officer. The investigation revealed something else that made the situation even worse. Devin Hayes had been the DARE officer at Pinewood Elementary School where Natalie taught. That's how they met. Devin would come to her school to teach children about making good choices, avoiding dangerous situations, trusting authority figures. The irony is devastating. Devin was supposed to be teaching kids about good decisions while conducting an affair with a married teacher at that same school. January 2025. The investigation expands to include Pinewood Elementary. When school administrators learned that Natalie Chen had been having an affair with their DARE officer, they immediately reported it to the district. A separate investigation was launched. The question wasn't whether the affair happened. The dashcam and text messages proved that. The question was whether any inappropriate conduct occurred on school property. What they found was disturbing. Security footage from October 8, 2024 shows Devin's patrol car parked behind the school at 4:47 p.m. School officially ended at 3:30. Most staff were gone by 4:00. The footage shows Devin entering through the back entrance. He doesn't check in at the office. He goes straight to the second-floor hallway where Natalie's classroom is located. He's in the building for 23 minutes. When he leaves, Natalie walks out with him. They stand by his patrol car talking for another 8 minutes before he drives away. This happened multiple times. October 8th, October 15th, October 22nd, October 29th, every Tuesday in October. Always after school hours, always when most staff had left. The principal, Margaret Dawson, provided a statement that revealed just how brazen they'd become. In late October, I was working late in my office when I heard laughter coming from the second floor. I went to investigate and found Officer Hayes and Mrs. Chen in her classroom. They said they were discussing the upcoming DARE presentation. It seemed innocent at the time. Now I realize what was actually happening. The school district had to answer a terrible question. Did any of this happen while students were present? After reviewing security footage and staff schedules, they concluded that Devin and Natalie were careful to wait until after hours. But here's the problem. After hours doesn't mean the building was empty. Custodial staff were present. After-school programs were running. Students staying for tutoring or waiting for parents were on campus. Even if no students directly witnessed anything, the fact remains. A married teacher and a police officer were conducting an affair on elementary school property. By mid-January 2025, the story had leaked to local media. The headlines were brutal. Fort Carson soldier assaults cop after catching wife in traffic stop kiss. DARE officer's affair with married teacher under investigation. Military wife's betrayal caught on police dashcam. The dashcam footage, with faces blurred, was released through a public records request. It went viral within 48 hours. Over 3 million views in the first week. The comment section became a battlefield. Some people defended James, some condemned his violence, some blamed Natalie, some blamed Devin. Everyone had an opinion, but 3 communities were affected most directly. Fort Carson, where James served, the police department, where Devin worked, and Pinewood Elementary, where Natalie taught. At Fort Carson, the reaction was mixed. Most service members expressed sympathy for James. Military spouses dealing with infidelity while deployed or training is unfortunately common. But some questioned whether his assault on Devin showed the kind of judgment expected of an officer. At the police department, the reaction was simpler. Devin had violated policy, violated public trust, and brought embarrassment to the department. His fellow officers wanted him gone. At Pinewood Elementary, parents were furious. They'd trusted Natalie with their children. They'd trusted Devin as a safety officer. Now they learned that both had been conducting an affair on school property. A parent-teacher meeting in late January turned chaotic. Over 200 parents showed up demanding answers. How long had this been going on? Were children ever at risk? Why weren't parents informed sooner? Principal Dawson tried to reassure them that no children were harmed or exposed to inappropriate behavior. Parents weren't satisfied. One mother, Jessica Palmer, said something that captured the anger perfectly. "I don't care if they waited until after hours. I don't care if no kids saw anything. The fact is, we trusted these people. We sent our children to school believing they were in a safe, professional environment. Instead, 2 adults were sneaking around having an affair in the same building where our kids learn. That's not acceptable. That's not forgivable." If you're watching this and you've experienced betrayal like this, drop a comment. This community is about truth, accountability, and supporting each other through difficult stories. You're not alone. By February 2025, the consequences were cascading. Devin Hayes faced a hearing before the Colorado Peace Officer Standards and Training Board. His law enforcement career hung in the balance. The board reviewed the dashcam footage, the text messages, the security footage from the school, and witness statements. Their decision was unanimous. Devin Hayes was permanently decertified as a peace officer in Colorado. His name was added to the National Decertification Index. He would never work in law enforcement again in any state. The board's statement was scathing. Officer Hayes violated the public trust in the most egregious manner possible. He engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a married woman he met through his duties as a DARE officer. He conducted this affair during duty hours on school property and displayed such poor judgment that he kissed this woman during a traffic stop while in uniform and on camera. This behavior is incompatible with the duties of a peace officer. Devin didn't appeal. He resigned from the department effective immediately. Natalie Chen faced her own reckoning with the school district. In March 2025, after a lengthy investigation, the district superintendent recommended termination. The school board voted 7-0 to accept the recommendation. Natalie was fired from Pinewood Elementary. Her teaching license was referred to the Colorado Department of Education for potential revocation. In April 2025, the State Education Board held a hearing. They had the authority to revoke her license permanently. Natalie attended the hearing with an attorney. She made a brief statement. "I take full responsibility for my actions. I made terrible decisions that hurt my husband, my school, and the community. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to eventually rebuild my life." The board wasn't moved. They voted to suspend her teaching license for 5 years. Any reinstatement would require proving she'd undergone counseling and demonstrated rehabilitation. For a 29-year-old teacher, a 5-year suspension is essentially a career death sentence. By the time she could reapply, she'd be 34 with a 5-year gap in her resume and a disciplinary record that would appear in background checks forever. But what about James Chen? Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Remember, James was initially arrested for assaulting Devin, but those charges were dropped. The question was whether the Army would pursue disciplinary action. The military has its own justice system. The Uniform Code of Military Justice allows commanders to pursue non-judicial punishment for conduct that violates military standards, even if civilian charges are dropped. James' commanding officer, Colonel Patricia Morrison, had a decision to make. Did James' actions warrant punishment? She reviewed everything. The dashcam footage showing him taking down a police officer, the circumstances that provoked his response, his service record, statements from fellow soldiers. In April 2025, Colonel Morrison made her decision. No disciplinary action would be taken against Second Lieutenant James Chen. Her written statement explained the reasoning. Lieutenant Chen discovered his wife engaged in an affair in the most shocking and public manner possible. His immediate reaction while involving physical force was measured and controlled. He did not continue the assault once the officer was neutralized. He did not draw a weapon. He did not pursue revenge beyond that initial confrontation. Given the extreme emotional circumstances and his otherwise exemplary service record, I find that formal discipline is not warranted. However, Lieutenant Chen has been counseled regarding the appropriate handling of personal matters and the importance of maintaining military bearing under all circumstances. In other words, the Army recognized that James was a soldier who'd been pushed to his limit and responded in a moment of devastating discovery. They weren't going to destroy his career for being human, but there were unofficial consequences. James was quietly transferred to a different unit. Some of his fellow officers treated him differently afterward, some with more respect for standing up for himself, some with wariness about his capacity for violence. The Army also mandated counseling. James spent 3 months working with a military psychologist to process the betrayal, the divorce, and the very public nature of his humiliation. Natalie filed for divorce in December 2024, 1 week after the traffic stop incident. She wanted a quick, clean separation. James had other plans. His divorce attorney, Rebecca Stone, filed a counter-motion that included adultery as grounds for divorce and requested the court consider Natalie's infidelity when dividing assets. Colorado is generally a no-fault divorce state, but adultery can still be considered in property division and spousal support decisions. The divorce proceedings became a public spectacle. The dashcam footage was entered as evidence. The text messages were submitted as exhibits. Devin Hayes was even subpoenaed to give a deposition. Devin's deposition was particularly damaging. Under oath, he admitted the affair began in August 2024 and continued until November. He admitted they'd met at the school. He admitted they'd been in Natalie's classroom alone after hours. When asked if they'd ever been intimate on school property, Devin invoked his Fifth Amendment rights. That non-answer told everyone what they needed to know. Natalie's attorney tried to argue that the affair should have no bearing on property division. After all, Colorado doesn't punish infidelity financially in most cases. But James's attorney made a compelling argument. James was a second lieutenant earning a modest military salary. Natalie was a teacher with similar income. They'd accumulated minimal assets during their short marriage. The real issue was future earning potential. Your Honor, my client's career remains intact. He can continue serving and advancing through the ranks. Mrs. Chen's career is over. Her teaching license is suspended. Her reputation is destroyed. She will struggle to find employment. She wants my client to subsidize her new life after she destroyed their marriage. That's not justice. The judge agreed. In May 2025, the divorce was finalized. No spousal support was awarded. Assets were divided 50-50, which meant each of them got basically nothing because they hadn't accumulated much during their short marriage. Natalie walked away with half of not very much and no career prospects. James walked away with his military career intact and his integrity restored. June 2025. 6 months after the traffic stop that destroyed 3 lives. Second Lieutenant James Chen remains at Fort Carson. He's been promoted to first lieutenant and is reportedly focusing on his career. According to military sources, he's dating someone new, another service member who understands military life. He rarely speaks about the incident publicly, but in one interview with a military podcast, he said something revealing. People ask me if I regret how I reacted that day. The truth is, I don't. I'm not proud of using violence. I'm not proud of losing control. But I'm not ashamed either. I was confronted with the worst moment of my life, and I responded like a human being, not a robot. Would I do it again? I hope I'm never in that situation again. But yeah, probably. Devin Hayes left Colorado entirely. According to social media, he moved to Montana and is working in private security. He'll never wear a police badge again. He posted a public apology on Facebook in March 2025. I made choices that hurt people I care about and betrayed the trust of the community I swore to serve. I can't undo what I did. All I can do is try to be better moving forward. To James Chen, I'm sorry. You deserved better from your wife, and you deserved better from me. The apology was met with mixed reactions. Some people appreciated the accountability. Others said it was too little, too late. Natalie Chen is the biggest mystery. She's completely vanished from public view. Her social media accounts are deleted. She's not working in education. Public records show she moved out of Colorado, but beyond that, no one knows where she went or what she's doing. Her family released one statement through an attorney. Natalie deeply regrets her actions and the pain they caused. She's taking time to reflect, heal, and figure out her next steps. She asked for privacy during this difficult time. Translation: she's hiding from the consequences of her choices. This isn't an isolated incident. Workplace affairs between people in positions of authority happen constantly. Teachers and resource officers, supervisors and subordinates, colleagues who spend more time together than with their spouses. The patterns are predictable. It starts innocent. Workplace friendship, common interests, inside jokes, shared frustrations about work. Then it escalates. Private conversations, text messages that get personal, compliments that cross professional lines. Then it crosses into emotional affair territory. Sharing feelings they should be sharing with their spouse. Looking forward to seeing each other more than going home. Then it becomes physical. A kiss, then more. Always with the justification that this is different and no one understands what we have. And finally, it gets exposed. A spouse gets suspicious, someone sees something they shouldn't, a text message gets discovered. The destruction is always catastrophic. Marriages end. Careers implode. Reputations are ruined. Children are traumatized. Communities lose trust. Why do people risk everything for affairs they know will end badly? Psychologists point to several factors. The dopamine hit of new romance, the excitement of secrecy, the ego boost of being desired by someone new, the escape from problems in their real relationship. But here's the truth about affairs. They're built on fantasy. The sneaking around, the stolen moments, the intensity of forbidden love. That's not real life. That's a drug. And like any drug, the high doesn't last. Eventually, reality crashes in. You lose your job, you lose your spouse, you lose the respect of people who once admired you, and that new relationship you risked everything for? It usually falls apart too because it was never built on a solid foundation. It was built on lies, deception, and betrayal. In April 2025, the school district held a series of meetings to address what happened and prevent future incidents. New policies were implemented. 1. All law enforcement officers working on school property must check in and out at the main office. No exceptions. This creates a record of who is in the building and when. 2. Teachers cannot be alone with non-school employees after hours without administrative approval. If a teacher needs to meet with a police officer, counselor, or other professional outside school hours, an administrator must be present or notified. 3. Security cameras were installed in all hallways. Previously, only entrances and parking lots were monitored. Now, interior hallways are recorded to document who enters classrooms and when. 4. DARE officers and other regular visitors undergo enhanced background checks and must sign ethics agreements acknowledging professional boundaries. 5. Anonymous reporting system for inappropriate relationships. Staff can report concerns about boundary violations without fear of retaliation. Some teachers complained these policies were overly restrictive. Principal Dawson responded bluntly. We employed a teacher who conducted an affair with a law enforcement officer on school property, while parents trusted us with their children. These policies ensure that never happens again. If that inconveniences some staff, so be it. 6 months later, the ripples of that November traffic stop are still being felt. James Chen is rebuilding his life, but the betrayal left scars. He's reportedly in therapy. He's more guarded in relationships. He's hesitant to trust. Devin Hayes lost the career he'd built for over a decade. He's working security jobs that pay a fraction of what he earned as a police officer. His reputation is destroyed. His name is permanently associated with scandal. Natalie Chen lost everything. Her marriage, her career, her reputation, her community. She's starting over from scratch in her 30s with no clear path forward. But there are other victims too. The students at Pinewood Elementary who lost a teacher they loved and trusted. The children in the DARE program who learned that the officer teaching them about integrity didn't practice it himself. The other teachers at Pinewood who now work under stricter policies because of Natalie's choices. The other police officers in Devin's department who face increased scrutiny because one of their own betrayed public trust. James's fellow soldiers who watched their brother-in-arms go through public humiliation. The military families at Fort Carson who were reminded that even in a community built on honor and loyalty, betrayal can happen.